Wait. I heard.
The Monday, July 25th, 2022 regular meeting of the Paris City Council is hereby called to order at 5:30 p.m. For the purpose of this meeting, there is a quorum of the council present. Item number 2, Mr. Gene Anderson will deliver the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Item number 3 will be led by Mayor Pro Tem Hughes. Please rise.
May we pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you again for each and every blessing that you've given us. And Father, we pray for our city and our city leaders that you would guide and direct them tonight. Father, we pray that we would walk worthy of the calling that we have in Christ Jesus, and that we would be, Father, like those residents of Antioch so many years ago, Father, that they so lived their testimony that they were first called Christians there. We do pray and ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 4 is the Citizens Forum. Persons desiring to address the council must limit their presentation to no more than 2 minutes. Unless an item is posted on the agenda, the Texas Open Meetings Act prohibits the council from responding to any comments other than to refer the matter to a future agenda, to an existing policy, or to a staff person with specific factual information. Claims against the city, council members, or employees, as well as individual personal appeals, are not appropriate for Citizens Forum. If necessary, the City Council may convene into executive session under Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code regarding any item on this agenda. The public forum is now open. If there's anyone who wishes to address the council, please state your name and address for the record. The Citizens Forum is now open.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is John Fuston, and I live with my wife Barbara at 4010 Miranda Drive in Morningside. And I wish to address the issue with the swimming pool ordinance that's on your agenda today. And what I would like to go over with you is there are 4 pools in our block in Morningside. 2 are in the ground and 2 above the ground, so we have a lot of a pool experience. We do not have a pool. One of the in-ground pools is directly behind our home, and it's been there about 10 years, and we've had absolutely no problem. Last year, the property sold, and problems with the swimming pool, the flushing and the back flushing and the draining and so forth began, and we still have that problem. I've worked with code enforcement, and I've talked to the new owner, but the situation has not been resolved. I understand that water from the pool, according to the code, is to be discharged into the sanitary sewer or the storm sewer, such as the paved street gutter. There are 2 PVC discharge pipes coming from the pump house. One of the pipes empties into the side edge of their yard in the backyard, and the other pipe empties in, coming out of the pump house, empties onto the concrete driveway. From these 2 discharges, the pool water simply flows across other yards and property, following the normal slope of the land. I've been told by the city staff that there is no penalty clause in this ordinance about the pools. And I encourage the council to revise to the current code to include a penalty clause and if that's the right word to use, that's the one I use, and to enforce the proper drain and discharges. You had any questions on me?
Well, thank you, Mr. Fuston. This item is on the agenda, so we'll let council ask their questions at that time, please.
Okay, fine.
We appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the council? Seeing none, the public forum is closed. The consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are approved by a single action of the council, with such approval applicable to all items appearing on the consent agenda. A council member may request any item to be removed from the consent agenda and considered as a separate item. Does any member wish to remove an item from the agenda for discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll hear a motion to approve all items on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Savage. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. The regular agenda, I would like to make a motion to move item number 31, which is the last item, regarding the swimming pool ordinance. If I can hear a motion to move that right before number 18.
I'll make a motion to move item number 31 up to before number 18.
Thank you, Ms. Knox. A second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Pilgrim. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Item number 31, discuss regulations and enforcement for swimming pools located in the city and provide direction to staff. Mr. Mack?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. I did not prepare a staff memo on this item. It was an item that was added to the agenda by the mayor. I do want to indicate that on this particular issue that Mr. Fuston brought up just beforehand, we've been working on this issue for 2 years, and this continues to be a problem in this particular area of the community. As you see on the screen, the city has got some information on its website that talks about the proper handling of discharge from any swimming pool within the community. We have one option. Number one is to discharge it on your lawn, provided that it is dechlorinated and it does not damage grass. It states specifically that you do not cause flooding of your neighbor's property or any adjacent property. Again, this is a information piece that we have available that's based on laws promulgated by the state of Texas under the swimming pool codes and also the international swimming pool code requirements. The second option is that it can be discharged to the sanitary sewer, again, once it's dechlorinated. And number three, that it can be discharged to the storm drain, storm sewer system, which would include an inlet within subsurface pipe system in our streets or subsurface drainage along the streets, curbs until it reaches a channel where it discharges to an area within a subdivision where it enters into a stream or a creek. After further examination of this particular requirements, our building official, who would be the enforcement authority on this, along with the Public Works Department with regard to anything involving the Texas Environmental Quality Commission on discharge of backflush from swimming pools, we've determined that we have the methods that are appropriate for the handling of this discharge, but we have no enforcement code in our local city code for a violation of not following one of these three protocols for discharge. And so staff would recommend that the council have some discussion and perhaps consider either directing staff to further investigate this and look into whether or not a proper ordinance can be written that would apply citywide. Otherwise, at the current point in time, this would be handled, has been handled in the past as a civil matter and requiring the neighbors to basically take their neighbor to court. And so it seems to me we've got good options pointed out, giving you 3 methods for discharge. It would seem to be logical that we would have a need to enforce that. But staff will do whatever the council wishes on this subject. And I know this has come up through the number of years, and it's a problem. My recommendation would be if we do amend the ordinance, we apply it citywide. There's no grandfathering in whatsoever.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. Discussion or question? Let me say first, I put it on the agenda to discuss because it's like having a speeding limit, but you don't have any tickets or any penalty for exceeding the speed limit. And it's not just Mr. Fuston who's affected by this. He has some other neighbors. He's lost landscaping due to the chlorine that's discharged into his yard. Another neighbor has lost almost all her grass. I believe her son has contacted the city. And I think one more neighbor, at least, that is affected by it. And so questions or discussion?
Well, do you see that changing the ordinance or whatever, is that gonna, is that gonna alleviate anything? Do you foresee it alleviating anything, or is it still you're gonna have the situation at hand and then it'll still be a civil issue anyway?
Currently, we've been working with this property owner for 2 years. This is not a complicated fix. Unfortunately, the homeowner has chosen not to follow the staff's urging on the repair and the handling of the matter. So I believe, in my opinion, it comes down to the point now where the homeowner either decides eventually to fix it, the neighbors help the neighbor to fix it, or else we have to write a citation and take that individual to court, as we would do in other enforcement cases that my department handles on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion or guidance to the staff?
If you're gonna drain your pool in the sanitary sewer, the water has to be dechlorinated. So let's say we had to discharge, 1,000 gallons out of the swimming pool. How are we gonna dechlorinate it before we put it to the storm drain?
Dechlorination, I believe, means it's below a certain parts per million as a safe level. So that's typically what the backflush systems with the swimming pool allows it to be treated before it's discharged, which means that the backwash system needs to be functioning correctly.
So process-wise, it's not anything more than what a normal operating swimming pool would have, right?
Correct.
But this particular swimming pool is not going to the sanitary sewer or anywhere except neighbors' yards.
They're just leaving the hose out and it's going everywhere, it sounds like.
It's about a 4-inch PVC pipe that comes off. It seems like it's broken somewhere. They discharge in an L and it starts heading toward the street, but there's a crest in the driveway, so the top of the crest drains back to the rear yard, and the other side of the crest would take it to the street.
If you had to discharge to fix this and we had to do a hose on top of the driveway to discharge it down to is that legal to do something like that?
If they use one of these rain gutter systems that allows the water to go out and then it recoils automatically when the water's, that would be a simple solution. It would fix it. But they just have chose not to do anything.
Okay.
After repeated urgings from at least 3 members of my staff.
Well, I'm in favor of adding an ordinance that would allow us to make them follow the codes or take them to court.
How long will it take you to enforce that ordinance, and how would it affect the city overall?
We would deal, again, on a complaint basis on this, and of course, if it's a new pool, they've got to go through the permitting, and these are all addressed up front. So if it's, broken system, or they just never installed it correctly back years ago, then we would have the right to enforce it. And it would be expedient. They would be given proper notice, and if they fail to provide corrective measures as our usual process, then they would receive a citation.
Understand, thank you.
Ms. Moore, Ms. Knox, you have any comments or questions?
Wish I had this problem. I wish I had a swimming pool, so I would,
Would you invite the rest of us?
but no, I would be very much in favor of supporting an ordinance so that this doesn't damage anybody else's yard. Most definitely.
So is this action item or just direction?
Just
Direction.
Okay.
direction. All right. Is that kind of give you some direction of,
That's very clear direction.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Fuston?
No.
No, I do not.
All right, thank you for coming, Mr. Fuston. Item number 18, discuss, conduct a public hearing, and act on an ordinance considering the petition of the City of Paris for a master thoroughfare plan amendment from a minor arterial roadway to a major collector roadway on Fitzhugh Avenue, north of Clement Road to Northeast Loop 286. Staff, do you have a presentation, please?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This item has come up regarding subject property that's also on the agenda for 5 and 5 tonight. We identified the fact that our thoroughfare plan called for a major arterial triggering requirement for 80 feet of right-of-way. The area you see in pink on the screen would be the section of Fitzhugh as it approaches the loop that would be modified to a collector status, reducing the right-of-way requirement to 60 feet, and we have sufficient right-of-way currently on Fitzhugh to meet that 60-foot requirement, therefore not impacting the development and causing additional right-of-way to be dedicated. It would still remain an arterial beyond the loop and to the northeast of town. So we are recommending, as did the Planning Commission at their July 5th hearing, to make this amendment to the Master Thoroughfare Plan.
Thank you. I'll now open the public hearing and ask that anyone who wishes to come forward and speak in support or opposition of this item, please state your name and address for the record. Public hearing is now open. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Any questions or discussion of staff?
I have one question. You know how that road kind of makes this really big turn almost? Is there any plan to kind of smooth that out a little bit? If it's going to be a major collector roadway, don't you think that might a consideration to maybe make it not quite so sharp of a turn, maybe? I don't know, I'm just asking.
As a major thoroughfare, I would tend to agree with that concern. However, a collector is just a two-way street that would normally allow for some turns or curves in the movement of the street. Yes, it would be nice if it was nice and straight through there in a curve. I don't know if there's any plans. We certainly don't have any plans I'm aware of at this time to straighten that out. It would involve acquisition of land, of private property. If that land were to be platted, we could further consider that, but this would basically allow them to develop without that dedication. So at this point, the city engineer hasn't studied that question. It may have come up in the past. I think it's a valid concern, but I don't think that it affects the decision before you this evening.
Right.
Can you tell us where that 5 and 5 building is going to be happening?
Right there.
Okay, great. Any other questions or comments?
So what would be the difference in what we're doing here on the Fitzhugh and say Clement Road, Northeast Clement Road hitting the loop, the Northeast Loop? What's the difference? Would it make it just the same?
Well,
And where Clement Road comes out, I think it's by the tractor place.
Clement is an existing collector street. I would have to pull up the base map to look closer at that. If we want to take time, I can bring that up. It's not shown on the screen here.
I guess my question is, what would happen on this street that would make it like the Clement Road collector street going into the northeast loop? So what are we adding here? What are we doing here that would make it exactly like that?
We're simply downgrading the status of the roadway between Clement and the loop. Instead of 80 feet of right-of-way, we only need 60, and that's presently what's there. So it would be making it easier for anybody who wants to develop along the stretch to not have to dedicate additional right-of-way.
Okay.
And also in our long-range plans, then we don't need to envision widening out to a 4-lane divided highway.
Which that would be the case if we kept it as a minor arterial road.
Correct.
Okay,
Not practical.
okay. No more discussion. I'll hear a motion.
I make the motion that we approve the master thoroughfare plan amendment from a minor arterial roadway to a major collector roadway on Fitzhugh Avenue north of Clement Road to Northeast Loop 286.
Thank you, Mr. Savage. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Pilgrim. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Item number 19, discuss, conduct a public hearing, and act on an ordinance considering the petition of the City of Paris for a master thoroughfare plan amendment from a major arterial roadway to a major collector roadway on Southeast 3rd Street, FM 1497 South Church Street to County Road 12600. Mr. Mack?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Again, a very similar action here. We are recommending, as did the Planning and Zoning Commission on July 5th, to downgrade the classification of this roadway from an arterial, again, requiring 80 feet of right-of-way, future 4-lane type divided, highway system, to a collector street. We extend all the way down to the ETJ, as does the current thoroughfare plan show, which affects property within our ETJ. Whenever it's platted, that's when we take up the requirements for dedication along the front of their property based upon the roadway classification system. In this case, it became obvious to us that we had this overclassified. We believe State Highway 19 and 24 immediately to the west of this serves as that major arterial system leading into the south end of town, and that this continues to be a trunk highway through TxDOT, which functions properly as a collector street. It's basically a major collector street, taking you all the way south 2 miles out of the city limits. This became evident to us as we were dealing with the plat and the rezoning for the SUG property on Southeast 3rd Street. And so at this point, again, this is one that makes sense, that we're not looking or proposing for TxDOT to upgrade a roadway that functions properly in our community and allow them, to focus on classifications for the loop and other roads that they have plans for improvement to, that we'll actually learn about more tomorrow during their public forum. So with that, we did have a number of folks interested in this. We had some information that was put out as a part of our standard notice. As you can see, we have a map that was drawn here that confused people a little bit. They thought this was the widening of the roadway. We're not widening this roadway. We're not annexing any additional property. And again, all we're doing is downgrading the status so that additional right-of-way beyond the 70 feet that is existing in this location is no longer required for new development. And so, again, staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend this approval and amendment to the Master Thoroughfare Plan.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. I will now open the public hearing and ask that anyone who wishes to come forward and speak in support or opposition of this item, please state your name and address for the record. The public hearing is now open.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, my name is Kyle Foster, 3442 FM 1497. Mr. Mack was quite eloquent there. Several different things were just stated now that were not stated at the meeting on July the 5th. And I do appreciate your attention. It is much more than what we got at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. 4 members there, 1 paid attention, 3 were more interested in what was on their phones. So that was a little bit disappointing. However, the map isn't what was confusing, it was the wording that was confusing. And the reason for wanting to drop this from an arterial to a collector highway, excuse me, which there's no reason to drop this from an arterial roadway to a collector roadway. This is an actual major roadway. If you look at the number of people that travel this roadway daily, there is no need to drop this down to a collector. This is a major thoroughfare from people from Beardstown, Glory, all through the highway system. Saying you're dropping it from the required 80-foot right-of-way to a 70-foot right-of-way because you're giving us back our land. The land has always been ours. We just couldn't build on it without your permission. So you're not giving back land that belonged to us in the first place. So a lot of the things that Mr. Mack is saying are still confusing. He still hasn't cleared anything up. What is the purpose? And talking about the one piece of land that he's wanted to approve a decrease in the right-of-way for on 3rd Street. Something leads me to believe this extraterritorial jurisdiction has plans for further development coming that he wanted to lower the right-of-way for. So there are still several citizens concerned about this particular piece of property that he's wanting to, this particular roadway. Not everyone came tonight. I'm the one that volunteered my time to come and speak. Not doing a very good job of it, but I'm trying. I'm not a good public speaker, but there has to be something more going on with this that's not quite being made public at this moment. But I just wanted to share what I thought. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Anyone else wishing to speak? I will now close the public hearing. Any discussion or questions? Mr. Mack, will you clarify? I thought it was down to 60 feet right away.
That's correct. What's
Okay.
currently there is 70 feet of right-of-way, based on our review of the base mapping, measuring the right-of-way width. That's what we've detected. With regard to responding to something else that's going on down here, there isn't. Staff does not have any development proposals. We have no new plats proposed to come in for subdivision of properties in this area. And again, I know that I have looked at the TxDOT right-of-way map for long-term future plans for the South Loop 286 area. There is a frontage road planned in this location. There is a new intersection that would involve a frontage road type system. I had extensive discussion with the property owner that is immediately adjacent to the south right-of-way of Loop 286 in this area. He has no immediate plans for future development, but is maintaining 14 acres for that future opportunity just east of the fuel station there on the east side of South Church. But aside from those discussions, there is no other plans that my department, engineering, or any other department has aware for this part of the city.
So what was the driving force to make these changes? I thought you said earlier that there was some platting or something brought it to your attention.
Correct.
So what was that?
It was land that we rezoned. The council recently rezoned just north of the subdivision on the east side of the road here, and we rezoned that to allow two-family or duplex to be built in there. So we are currently working through the platting stage for that right now, and we recommended that additional right-of-way not be dedicated, and as a result, the city staff initiated this amendment to the thoroughfare plan.
What about the question of the amount of traffic? Will that be impacted by reclassifying this
No, not at all. The road will continue to function the exact way that it is right now.
Well, the road width-wise won't change. It's still going to be FM 1497 when we get done.
That's right, that's right.
So if there's no changes, why are we doing it? If it doesn't affect anything, why are we doing it?
So that we're not going to require continued dedication of right-of-way at such time as any land is platted, and allow the road to continue to function the way it is.
I live over there, and it was like Mr. Foster said, it's not a minor street. I mean, it's very active. It's a very active street. It's almost as active as Church Street in that same, going into the loop, that same mile or so stretch, by Evergreen Cemetery and then going into the loop. It's a very active street. We had numerous wrecks right there at that stop sign. TxDOT had to make a lot of changes over the years, a lot of deaths. So it's a major area, and there's a lot of traffic that way. And I know in that area there's been a lot of concern about what we're opening it up to. So I see what Mr. Foster is saying, and I see the skepticism. People think that there's something hidden here. So can we ask Mr. Foster?
Sure.
Mr. Foster, what are your concerns, or the people in the neighborhood? I'm not sure where you live exactly, but the concerns of the people, and then, well, go ahead and let me know what the concerns are.
One of the big concerns is annexation. The city's tried once before, several years ago, probably about 30 years ago, to annex the area. The people fought against annexation, and obviously it wasn't annexed. Is one concern. The other concern comes into changing it to a collector roadway. It's much easier to make changes to a collector roadway than it is an arterial roadway, because the city can come in and add stop signs. They can add street light or traffic lights. They can add roundabouts. They can add different things to the roadway without getting public approval once it's a collector roadway. That not only adds to the problem with the traffic driving into that area, I would much prefer that the traffic be slowed down, definitely, because, I live right at the top of the hill, and so it scares me every day for my child to back out of the driveway. But adding these things without any type of oversight is a scary thing for, most of us live outside the city limits for a reason, and it's due to, you want a little bit less oversight. And to have the city come in and want to now control for a little over 2 miles outside the city is a little concerning for most of these people.
All right, thank you.
So,
Well, the state of Texas does give cities the ETJ, and, we're not trying to annex you, and if we did try, you would all be notified. There would be public hearings, and I have never been involved in trying to annex any part of outside the city of Paris. But if I were, I would certainly listen to, the people who would be affected.
Yeah. And speaking of that, Andrew, and I know this was before your time, before you came in, but there were changes presented to the P&Z and to the council before, some changes that wanted to be made in that area along 3rd Street, across the loop, inside the loop and across the loop. And the people that lived in the area were all against it, but the builders were the ones who was pushing it at that time. So my question is, do we have builders trying to push for this, and how many, are a lot of the people that live in the residence against it? Because I'm looking at the notes here, and I see where some residents were against this.
There were several people that called in advance of this in our office. There were a number of people that spoke up at the public hearing at the Planning and Zoning Commission. I feel that, there was a public notice that followed our standard procedure for public notice. It could have been more detailed in explanation. We're going to look at that in the future. I mean, if it's a basic zoning requirement, specific property, you're changing from District A to B, that's usually pretty clear. People understand that. This was needed a little more explanation, And unfortunately, we didn't provide more detail about what this was about. But several people felt that their concerns were addressed by understanding the situation better, and as a result, dropped some of their concerns because of, in fact, what this is. Now, to be honest with you, the city's classification of a TxDOT roadway is a planning exercise for the city, but basically, the control over what will ever happen with this roadway is under State Department of Transportation. It's not going to be the city's determination of what happens to this. It will be strictly a TxDOT decision in the future. And again, my only understanding of any proposed changes to this roadway has to do with the intersection of Loop 286. Again, there is a frontage road system planned on both sides of the trunk highway 286 along this particular roadway. And that would be my likely expectation of what the sum total of any future changes will be strictly in that corridor. And that's a long way down the road. We will hear tomorrow at a public forum by TxDOT's putting on from 2 p.m. on through the rest of the day out at the Celebrate It location. They're taking testimony and providing presentations. Their focus is on the North Loop. That's where we have the traffic issues. They're having a large roadway improvement planned by 2026, I think, is their planned date for implementation and construction on that Loop Highway area. This particular section of the Loop Highway I don't think is anywhere in the immediate forecasted future for TxDOT.
And there is no plan for the city section of that to be widened or anything done to it, right?
There is no city section. It's all TxDOT from
It's all TxDOT.
from the cemetery all the way south out of the city.
Okay,
I have a question.
sure.
Mr. Mack, if this change is not made, is that going to affect the development of the duplexes that have already been plotted?
Yeah, we will require an additional 5 feet of dedication across the front.
Okay.
So that'd be 40 feet from the center line for their half of the 80-foot right-of-way.
Okay.
And we would do the same anywhere else along this roadway system out to our ETJ. If a plat comes in, any division of land that severs a property by 5 acres or smaller than 5 acres is required to file a plat approval by the city. And that dedication of right-of-way would be a requirement for plat approval.
Have we seen the plat yet? for this?
Yes, it moved into the Planning and Zoning Commission, and it was denied for multiple errors on the plat.
Okay, so
But
we
it's-
have not
it's-
seen this yet.
It'll be coming back for the P and Z at their next meeting.
And has it been designed with the changes in mind, or has it
Yes.
been? It has been, so they're already designing it with this change in mind.
Correct.
Oh, wow.
But if this is not approved tonight, they will still be required to dedicate that before final plat approval.
I see.
So if we don't approve this tonight, it really doesn't affect anything
Except their
necessarily.
drawings.
I mean, well, the drawings,
Yeah, they
yeah.
gotta replat. Mhm.
And the dedication of an additional 5 feet of land,
Well,
which.
I'm just saying, you shouldn't put the cart before the horse. You shouldn't have done that without us approving it first. So I'm sorry, but I'm unsympathetic on that.
No, they did it at the staff's suggestion that we would initiate this change before the plat approvals were completed. So it's not the developer builder's fault. It was discussed as a part of staff recommendation from our development review team.
Is there from a major arterial to a major collector, do we have any deciding factor over future red light, stop sign? That was one of the concerns. I've never heard that, but I'm asking.
The city would have no control over that. We would only
Beta
have,
Texas.
we'd only have
TxDOT.
input to TxDOT on that. And in fact, the whole notion of a collector street would be different functional classification for a roadway. If it were to be upgraded to an arterial roadway, under the current plan, the speeds would be intended to be increased.
Yeah.
And the safety of those speeds increased with
Right.
roadway changes for that purpose.
We're
So
talking
it's-
about 5 feet. I mean, I hear your concerns as a citizen, and Ellis, you live down there, I understand that. I'll go either way y'all want to go, but this is gonna, way down the road, if it ever did develop, this is gonna be a collector road instead of an arterial road, so your traffic would stay the same or slow, wouldn't go faster. And as far as red light, stop signs, any kind of traffic control, that's all on Texas Department of Transportation. We don't control that. What we do control is how far tight we can build from the center of the road. That's the only thing we can control. I mean, I'm not against it. I don't think it doesn't change anything south of the loop for probably ever, maybe never. I mean, maybe way down the road if that ever developed and maybe there was some industry or something that wanted to go in down there and we annexed then, or if there was some major development as far as residential or something on the south loop, that would be different, but I don't see it being an issue. In fact, it makes the road smaller or makes it stay the same. It doesn't let it get bigger and make it more, high speed and things of that sort. So I don't see it being an issue, especially when you're south of the loop, because that's technically in the county still, so.
Let me correct my mistake. I'm not sure I closed the public hearing, but if no one else to speak, I will close the public hearing now. And I will say, without our city attorney here, but I believe to overturn planning and zoning decision does take 6 votes. And Mr. Path, is that correct?
This is not an ordinance, this is a amendment of
Oh,
a policy
okay,
plan,
so
so.
that's only an ordinance.
This should be just a regular majority vote.
Okay, thank you. I will hear a motion.
I make a motion to approve the thoroughfare plan amendment as written, item 19.
All right, a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Knox. A motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no,
No.
and it's a tie. We'll move to the next item then. All right, thank you. I'm not sure we've ever had a tie when I've been on the council. Item number 20, discuss, conduct a public hearing, and act on an ordinance considering the petition of Nathan Spalding on behalf of Benton Rainey for a master thoroughfare plan amendment from a major collector roadway to an arterial roadway north of Jefferson Road from Southeast Loop 286 to Collegiate Drive. Mr. Mack?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Apologize for wearing y'all out on thoroughfare plan amendments discussion tonight. This is our third amendment. We are pleased to bring you this amendment in response to the work with Mr. Nathan Spalding on the Forest View Development Project that is proposed on this 200-acre parcel area here, all the way out to the loop, constituting roughly half of this area that you see as a part of this proposed amendment. Working initially with Mr. Spalding on this development, he misunderstood our current call for a collector street, which would run from this point in the property. It ran north all the way through and over a major floodplain area and up to Clarksville Street, which actually occurs very close to the Loop Highway. It then followed this vacated railroad right-of-way bed, which ended up going back to the adjoining property owners as opposed to being retained as a trail system or a future type of a roadway. And so that property goes with the land on both sides. What the staff did was looked at the current plan, which shows the collector following this way through our ball fields, the north side of our civic center, right through the woods area that we have our archery tournament held every year. And we saw this as a very costly, impractical method for extending a collector street through this area, both to the west and to the north. And so in working with Mr. Spalding through this development project of nearly 200 acres, we have come up with a solution which provides for a much higher density development in this area, and it would be supported by a future thoroughfare street system. We are envisioning something different than what we currently experience on Clarksville and Lamar, but this would be the third southerly most east-west thoroughfare. It would be 4-lane divided. We are also envisioning that this would be constructed at a higher amenity where we would have landscaping in between the median, decorative lights, a whole new concept of development for this area that would promote a beautiful new mixed-use development within our community. We are continuing to explore methods for how this would be paid for. We have a meeting scheduled with TxDOT for, I believe it is this Friday, so we can get further input as to the requirements that they will have for connection of this development to their trunk highway system, which will be the only access this development has to a roadway is on the TxDOT trunk highway system. As a result of what we're proposing here, we would have dialogue with TxDOT to modify their trunk highway system here from the FM road where Jefferson connects to the loop, and instead of following the old Jefferson Road up to Collegiate, we're just between the high school and the Civic Center, we would have a discussion about having that TxDOT roadway, Jefferson, follow the loop, come up to this new intersection, and then be able to travel on what I'm terming the new street improvement. It would be the new Jefferson connection that would then extend into their development, hopefully in a first phase, and then a future phase would continue that roadway in the future and connect up to New Jefferson and straighten out the dogleg intersection that we have here near the Civic Center. So that is the proposed change. The developer is very excited about this change of the thoroughfare plan. In fact, he is the applicant in this case. The city did not initiate this, but through joint work with the developer, this is the proposed alternate. We did have an opportunity to meet with the landowner, which is Paris Junior College, which would be affected by part of it here, the south half of the 80-foot right-of-way, which would be 40 feet, and then south of the Veterans Memorial, we would look to have the entire 80 feet of right-of-way on the PJC property, and we would have future discussions about how that would be acquired for future construction should this proposal move forward. Again, we're working with the developer to forge a path forward on how the first phase of this will be constructed. We have interested participation in that cost for construction from the landowner to the north, also then from the developer, and then in the future we're looking for creating an upsizing or a cost sharing as well from the city. We would also look to partner with TxDOT on whatever aspect of this we can. If there is any cost sharing that would come out of TxDOT for this improvement, we want to certainly continue to have those dialogues with them, but we have not had that level of discussion yet. But again, look forward to doing so on Friday for the first time. So with this, again, the very awesome opportunity for providing a major new roadway into a completely undeveloped area in our community, and we're very excited about the prospect of this development and how it will be served from this thoroughfare system. So with that, staff is recommending the approval of this amendment, as did the Planning and Zoning Commission on their July 5th hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. I'll now open the public hearing and ask that anyone who wishes to come forward and speak in support or opposition of this item, please state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Councils, questions or discussion?
I have a question.
Mhm.
How accurate is this design, this plan? Because it looks to me, and I don't know if I'm reading this correctly or not, but it looks to me like the road goes so close to the Veterans Memorial that it almost cuts part of it off. I mean, am I reading that correctly?
So
or-
the blue area is the 200-foot buffer around the center line of where the roadway would be. This is not an accurate engineered design of
okay.
the street or the right-of-way. This is just the city engineers producing a line on the map.
I gotcha. Okay. So
so
it is
that
still
it's-
going to be not quite on top of
Yeah,
the
the detail will
Veterans
come as the
Memorial.
land
Okay.
is platted for the development.
Okay.
But we do envision that they would come in following the current 80-foot frontage that they have on the loop.
Mm-hmm.
And the point where it would start gradually bending is where it now enters the property that they have development potential for. So this is still subject to further refinement and design. It's not a final.
I gotcha.
And of course, our ordinance allows us to make those fine detailed judgments on the actual right-of-way dedication once the plat comes before the city P and Z and the council.
That sure is going to be a nice little development out there, I think.
And but to clarify that, because I just looked at the legend, the orange is the roadway. The blue is the buffer.
Right, but if
Yeah.
you look at the orange line, it's just like, here's the Veterans
Right.
Memorial, and here's the line. It's just it's very, very close. But that's a little judge they can make after, they start to look at it.
As I stated in my presentation, the 80 feet right-of-way would be adjacent to the Veterans Memorial.
Correct.
Because that's the side of it, not the front. Correct?
So the right-of-way, which is not usually where the roadway surface, there's some distance between the roadway and the roadway right-of-way line, would be about 9-10 feet back south of the memorial.
Thank you.
Further
And there would
discussion?
also likely be a sidewalk on both sides of that thoroughfare. So you'd have a sidewalk along the memorial.
Really nice. Mhm.
Further discussion?
And this would require that 60 feet or whatever,
80.
80, okay,
This is an upgrade from 60 to 80.
okay.
Going the opposite direction of the other item. All right. No further questions. I'll hear a motion.
I'll make a motion to amend the master thoroughfare plan from a major collector roadway to an arterial roadway from north of Jefferson Road from Southeast Loop 286 to Collegiate Drive.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. A second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Item number 21, discuss and conduct a public hearing and act on an ordinance considering the petition of Nathan Spalding on behalf of Benton Rainey for a comprehensive plan amendment from low-density residential LDR and medium-density residential MDR to a mixed use of park and recreation, PR, commercial C, high-density residential HDR, medium-density residential MDR, low-density residential LDR, and public lands and institutions PLI in the City of Paris, Block 351, Lot PT of 876.262 acres, City of Paris, Block 353, Lot 6, and Block 351, Lot PT of 891.627 acres, City of Paris, Block 351, Lot PT of 19.2693 acres, located in the 3300 block of Jefferson Road, LCAD 22769 and 109121 and 106259. Mr. Mack?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Well done, Mayor. Please
you.
take a deep breath. And it's a long introduction. I appreciate you reading that. The request before the council this evening is setting up the stage for the rezoning of the property to facilitate development. Our current comp plan calls for this area to be developed as low-density residential and medium. So basically, the plan called for future single-family homes in here. That was it. We actually entertained one development of over 400 lots about just over a year ago when I first started here. That particular developer from out of town chose not to further proceed with the concept following the initial pre-development stages. The new developer has come on the scene here in about the last 5 to 6 months. We had an opportunity to sit down in a joint work session, discuss this between both City Council and the Planning and Zoning Commission. The signs from all parties involved, elected and appointed officials, is this is a great future amendment to our plan and for development to occur in this area. So this amendment to the future land use map, the FLUM as the acronym, designating this for a mixed-use development of a variety of different land uses. And I'll just cite some of those here from the proposal from Mr. Spalding's development. Would include 100, in the first phase of the development, 183 lots. Mixed use, there would be 9.57 acres. There would be some remaining phases for single-family lots of 57, and about 12.39 acres for additional lots. About 10 acres of multifamily, about 6.5 acres of commercial, 6.7 acres of mixed use. We also show on the map here in blue future land to be donated for future elementary school for Paris ISD, which they have had opportunity to visit with the developer. They have interest in potentially receiving that land donation. And then about 40 acres for City Park in the north. It's largely in the floodplain and affording in the future a connection to the Trail to Paris down through the park and into the development, ultimately coming down through and tying back in over toward the high school where we would have a nice connected system of trails there. Again, the current plan calls for low-density residential. This amendment is setting up the stage for the property to be rezoned so that we are properly zoning in accordance with our comprehensive plan. So with this, we are recommending your approval to amend the future land use map, and also as was recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission at their public hearing held on July 5th.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. I'll now open the public hearing and ask that anyone who wishes to come forward and speak in support or opposition of the item, state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Any discussion, council?
This is the first planned development in Paris since the late 70s or early 80s?
I believe so. No, I think my subdivision was built, well, of course, it's not mixed use or this extent, but I think it was built late 90s.
Okay. Exciting stuff. And I don't think we've had any with mixed use
No.
commercial development as well as institution. It's
I
pretty,
think-
Well, we've
exciting.
had plans, it just didn't happen.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
I believe this is going to happen. Paris News had this graphic on the, I believe, on the front page, and I received a lot of positive input from constituents, a lot of excitement. No further discussion, I'll hear a motion.
Make a motion to approve item 21 as written.
Thank you. A second?
I'll second.
All right, a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Item number 22, discuss, conduct a public hearing, and act on an ordinance considering the petition of Nathan Spalding on behalf of Benton Rainey for a change in zoning from an agricultural district A to a planned development district, PD, in the city of Paris, block 351, lot PT of 8, 72.262 acres, City of Paris, Block 352, Lot 6 and Block 351, Lot PT of 8, with 91.627 acres, City of Paris, Block 351, Lot PT of 9, with 19.2693 acres located in the 3300 block of Jefferson Road, LCAD 22769 and 109121 and 106259. Mr. Mack, it's the Andrew Mack Hour.
Thank you, council members, Mayor Portugal. The exact same area you just amended for the future land use map is shown in this bold purple boundary. This is the area for rezoning, which matches that of the change to the land use plan. Again, I kind of went through already what the proposed uses are in the development. Some of it's still a little bit of a moving target as they continue to work on moving forward with their actual plans for development and so forth. At this point in time, I've had an opportunity to further visit with Mr. Spalding about this development. He has indicated to me that in this first phase of approximately 183 lots, which you will see coming off of Old Jefferson and on a collector roadway into what would become a roundabout internal to the development as a local street. This first phase is essentially consolidated in this particular area. What he's indicated also, which to me was just new information that he provided me with at the end of last week, is he's working with a track builder that would be capable of coming in and building out the entire first phase of development. What we don't have in the level of specificity right now for the planned development project is what he communicated to me would be part of these single-family homes. They would be built on what he suggested as 45-foot wide lots. There would be nice porches built on the fronts of the homes that would be oriented to the sidewalk, which would be an outstanding design from my planning expertise. It would be a very, very nice, pleasing design with some reduced setbacks, front porches, narrower lots, allowing them to bring the type of housing product that he has communicated with an actual builder of track homes. I think currently he mentioned doing work in the El Paso area right now. And so I said, well, we don't exactly have built-in variances. We don't have 45-foot lot width requirements for our SF2 single-family district. We would normally expect that be a 60-foot wide lot. He is, again, proposing 45-foot lot widths, potentially some modified setbacks. And so based on communication from him today, he is requesting that this item be tabled tonight and continued to your meeting of August 22nd, allowing him time to bring forth more specificity on the concept plan layout for the residential lots and those alternate setbacks so that we're not dealing with variances on each and every lot every time they want a building permit. This is the type of flexibility that is built into a development plan. And so I am recommending that you accept Mr. Spalding's request to table this tonight for 1 month until your second meeting in August. Allow him to prepare more detail in that concept plan so that you would be able to approve those built-in deviations as a part of this plan development once he provides that increased specificity, and it will take him a little time to do that. So he would like to keep the process moving for approval and also appreciates the need to address this at the front end, not at the platting stage, but it would be at the PUD zoning approval stage. So again, P&Z did recommend approval of this. They liked the concept. They recommended the change. But in light of the applicant's request, I would urge you to consider tabling specifically to that date of August 22nd so that we don't have to re-advertise and send out notices all over again at expense to the city.
And I believe to do that, I have to open the public hearing and then table it till a date certain, which would be August 22nd.
Correct.
Okay. The public hearing is now open. Do I need a motion for that, Mr. Path?
Just leave it open.
Okay. The public hearing is open until August 22nd. Item number 23, discuss, conduct a public hearing, and act on an ordinance considering the petition of Harold Davis on behalf of Carl Hargrove for a specific use purpose permit in the Central Area District for a tattoo parlor in the city of Paris, Block 121, Lot 2, located at 340 Bonham Street, LCAD 16016, and I believe that, did I read that this had been withdrawn?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, members of
Okay.
council. The petition was withdrawn prior to the public hearing at the Planning and Zoning Commission. Planning and Zoning Commission accepted the withdrawal and unanimously. So I would just recommend that you accept the P and Z recommendation for acceptance of withdrawal and pass over this item.
Thank you. I'll hear a motion to accept the withdrawal.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Item number 24, discuss and act on an ordinance issuing a license to Carlos and Amanda Donahoe, Texas Trinity LLC, doing business as Trinity Black Car Service, to operate a vehicle for hire business on the public streets of the city of Paris, Texas, finding a public necessity and convenience for issuance of said license. Mr. Path?
Mayor, members of the City Council, I'm filling in for Janice, who's taken a much-earned vacation this week, and so we wish her the best on that. Janice has been working with Carlos and Amanda Donahoe, Texas Trinity LLC, doing business as Trinity Black Car Services. They have made an application for a vehicle for hire, basically a taxi cab service, and per our codes, we are required to pass an ordinance for this license here. They have met all of our requirements in our code, and we recommend approval of the ordinance, given the license to perform their vehicle for hire service in Paris, Texas.
Thank you.
And they are here tonight in case you have any questions. So,
Welcome. Thank you. Any questions or discussion? I'll hear a motion.
Make a motion to approve the granting a vehicle hire license to Texas Trinity LLC, DBA Trinity Black Car Service.
I'll second.
Thank you. A motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Item number 25, discuss and act on a resolution approving Connie Lawman as library director as recommended by the city manager in conformance with section 23 of the city charter. Mr. Path?
yes, I'm pleased to present to you tonight Ms. Connie Lawman as our selection for the library director position. As you know, Mr. Tim DeGelder resigned back in end of May, early June, to take a job in Nevada, and so Rob Vine and I went about the process of seeking his replacement. We worked with two members of the library advisory board as well as our HR director. We interviewed two candidates, and we're very pleased to present to you Ms. Connie Lawman tonight. She's recently the manager of the Louisiana Tech University library system, and she has previous experience with municipal and other public libraries. For the last 10 years, she has a master's in library science, and we are very impressed with the interviews, with her experience, her answers, her character, and we are pleased to present to you tonight her, and we ask that you please appoint her for the library director position. And she's here tonight in case you have any questions. So,
Welcome, Ms. Lawman.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we're excited to have you, and you're starting very soon.
I am, in August, yes ma'am.
Yes, thank you. Any questions of Ms. Lawman?
Just welcome.
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 Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let's give her a big clap. All right, I'll hear a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Ms. Lawman for our director of the library, Paris
Thank
Public
you.
Library.
And a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries 6-0.
Glad to have you here.
Item number 26, discuss and act on a resolution amending the 5 and 5 Housing Infill Development Program guidelines and criteria to make properties immediately adjacent to the program area eligible for the program. Mr. Mack.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Very, very minor amendment, just a clarification. During the inception of this program, most of the discussions I had with proposed developers, builders, investors involved situations where we had to draw the line somewhere. So if it runs down the middle of the street and we've got similar homes on both sides of the street, they would be eligible. Although our city attorney informed me that that's not exactly the way we wrote it. So a very minor amendment to this. We have an item before you this evening following this, which will make room for 6 new dwelling units under the 5 and 5 program. So with this, city staff is strongly encourage you to make this minor amendment. It does not move the boundary of the 5 and 5 program as initially adopted in January, but it just makes this tool a little bit more flexible and workable, given particular character within an immediate neighborhood.
All right, discussion?
You don't have a map that you could pull up right quick
I do.
of the 5 and 5 boundaries? Specifically northeast?
I don't know if you could have done it a faster route than that. There's our boundary right there.
Man, I can't see that.
So it runs east-west about, so from 20th out to 30th, so it's about 50 blocks east-west, north-south, roughly 40 blocks, plus or minus. The subject area that is under consideration right now
Okay.
is this area right here.
Yeah, the one we just
And
passed.
so the subject property, Mr. Acey is here right now, representing DPI. Properties in the, there will be, this area is being platted. We just addressed this through a minor amendment to the thoroughfare plan tonight, so the duplexes will go, it's directly diagonal adjacent from the intersection on the line right here.
Yeah, how far does it go northeast? Did you say 20th Street?
On the east side, over to about 20th, correct. This is 20th right here.
Okay. And so when you say, let me see, how did you have it written?
To amend the guidelines. and-
Immediately adjacent to the program area, what does that mean specifically? I mean, what
Immediately,
is immediately adjacent? Just right across the street?
Right, or diagonal or I'm not sure if it was changed from caddy corner to diagonal. That was my suggested change.
But just across the street?
Correct.
Okay, because, we set the boundaries for a reason.
Right.
So we don't want to start to where we're just extending it because everybody's going to build in Northeast Paris.
This is not an extension of the line, would remain the exact same.
Well, technically, but not for real. I mean, if it's outside of the line, then it ends there.
So one example that we had was this immediate area south of Lamar down to Clarksville. When I drew the line, I knew we had houses in this neighborhood, completely the same character. There are some that are potential eligible for demolition in the future. Again, this street runs right through you got to pick some place to draw the line.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, we're not looking to move the boundary, but if it's this situation where it's either side, there's virtually no difference in the character of the neighborhood. Our city manager, I think, has some better eloquent language he could expound upon on that topic, but essentially it's addressing the same character of a neighborhood.
Yeah, and I have no problem with it. That was one of my little pet projects, trying to be one of my pet projects to get housing in here. So, but we just want to make sure that if the city is helping out with this, that it's in a certain area. So I have no problem with it, especially the location that's on the map that these people are proposing to build on. That's a perfect place. Need more housing in that area. Well, all over Paris.
All over Paris, but-
But I mean, specifically, we need to build
Northeast,
up north, the central part of Northeast.
And I believe this
places like
program is helping us toward that important goal in the community.
Well, Councilmember Savage, when I saw this on the agenda, I wrote a big old long speech. I was going to just read my speech, but then I got to read the background here. And I wrote my speech before I read the background, so the background explained it quite well. So it's just across the street, so. I understand that. I do appreciate you protecting the integrity of this program, though, because it's very important to those of us who are invested in the revitalization of our neighborhoods. Yes, thank you.
I think it's common sense. If somebody builds and qualifies for the 5 and 5, and somebody wants to build across the street from that and or outside this boundary, makes sense to me to approve it. Any more questions or discussion?
Well, outside the boundary, just across the street.
Just across the
Yes.
street, yes.
I'm just glad that people are taking advantage of the 5 and
Yes.
5.
Most
Been
definitely.
very good response. We appreciate that. All right, I'll hear a motion.
Make a motion to approve the resolution amending the 5 and 5 housing infill development program guidelines and criteria to make a properties immediate adjacent to the program area eligible for the program as recommended.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries 6-0. Item number 27, discuss and act on a resolution approving an economic development residential tax abatement agreement with Michael Davidson Distinguished Property and Investments, LLC, pursuant to the city's 5 and 5 Housing Infill Development Program. Mr. Mack?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I'd like to invite Bailey Acey, who's in attendance tonight, to approach the podium. He is the building general contractor representing Mr. Davidson, to share a little bit about the type of duplex unit he proposes to build on the site. Excited to have Mr. Acey involved in the program with us. He also has other areas that may become eligible in the future that he is pursuing with his family, and excited about some of where those areas are. But for now, Mr. Acey, you could join us, please. And
Welcome.
I'm Bailey Acey. How are y'all?
Good, thank you.
So we're basically just proposing to build, brick duplexes, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, higher end as we can. I didn't really plan to speak.
no, that's right. Our process has been that we bring the builder, developer, investor forward to the council to meet as you enter into the agreement with them.
Yeah,
Mack, get
he's
to the
Mack.
mic, please, sir.
Okay.
Oh, no,
I'm talking to
Mr.
Mr.
Mack.
Mack.
Oh,
You're speaking away from the mic.
Again, the policy, the procedure we've tried to follow with the council is to bring the builder or the investor forward for you to meet in person this evening. I apologize, I don't have pictures of his dwelling units that he's constructing, but I know that you all like to meet him before you enter into. Thank you. Yeah, it's I know it's in your pack. It's just I don't have it in the PowerPoint with me right now. But just if you have any other questions, but we look forward to the product that Mr. Acey has built in the past and will continue to build as a part of this program.
Bailey, I have one question. In the rendering, it looked like those were flat roofed. Is that in the design? Or
some of them are. Some of them have a more modern look. Some of them are pitched. They're all a little bit different. It just, if we build them for ourselves or for a customer, which we typically do, just kind of whatever they decide that they want.
Okay. Because I've never seen a flat roof that doesn't leak, so I had a question, but.
They're all pitched, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I would just like to thank you very
Yes.
much, pardon me, for including a front elevation of your design of what you're going to build. We always see the site plan,
Yes,
But
ma'am.
rarely do we see the north, or the front elevation. And we'd like to see the front elevation. So, and these are lovely. These are really attractive. So I'd like to thank you for including that in the packet.
Absolutely. Thank y'all.
Very much, thank you. Any more discussion? I'll hear a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I apologize.
No, you go ahead.
I'm a little, okay. I'll make a motion to approve the application for the 5 and 5 House Infill Development Program Guidelines and Criteria. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm lost.
27.
27, I approve item number 27 is written.
So,
I'll make the
second.
motion to approve, sorry.
And thank you, Mr. Savage. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I missed that out.
That's okay. Another 5 and 5 project. Item number 28, discuss and award the water and wastewater treatment chemical bids to be used in fiscal year 2022-2023. Mr. Harris, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, we advertise for water and wastewater treatment chemicals on an annual basis, and traditionally we will include these on the consent agenda, but as you can see from the bid tabulation, we saw an increase of approximately $374,000 as compared to last fiscal year. So in the interest of transparency and to determine it, should you have any questions about these bids, we wanted to bring this to the regular agenda. I will let you know that I have discussed with the vendors what their reasoning is behind these increases, and they did provide me detailed explanations. One of those was transportation costs compared to a year ago. Manufacturing costs have seen increases as well for the vendors. Raw material costs have gone up, and also staffing issues as well. So we anticipated an increase. I don't believe we expected them to be that much higher than last year, but you do have a bid tabulation in your packet, and again, it's about $374,000 greater than last year. Now, I will point out on the hydrated lime bid, we did receive hydrated lime bids, but they did not get to us prior to the 3 p.m. deadline, and per protocol, we have to send those bids back to the vendors unopened. That has been done. Those hydrated lime bids have been advertised again in the Paris News and on the website, and those are scheduled to be open this Wednesday at 2 o'clock.
Okay, thank you. Anybody who's been to the gas pump or the grocery store knows what we're dealing with, but it's a lot more expensive than our ordinary household cost. Any questions of Mr. Harris or discussion?
Mr. Harris, is this fee going to affect any other aspect of operational plant?
For the chemicals, sir? Yes, all these chemicals that we advertise are essential in operations of both the water treatment plant and the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay. I'll hear a motion.
Make a motion
Oh, I
to,
was gonna say.
To award?
I was looking and I'm still astonished. That's-
okay.
but That's the world we live in. I make a motion to award the wastewater treatment chemicals as written on item number 28.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion carries
Thank you.
6-0. Thank you, Mr. Harris. Item number 29, receive an update on the water and wastewater treatment plant project. Mr. Path?
Mayor and members of City Council, just before I get started, we do have with us our engineer, Lance Clement. He's with us from Garver Engineering tonight in case you have any questions for him as I proceed through this presentation. And of course, as well, Doug Harris, Director of Utilities as well. Continuing on from that theme of the last item there, this is the wastewater treatment plant project. I just want to give you a status update as where we are on this project. As you know, back on April 11th, you met and heard a presentation from Garver. We were at the 90% completion design at that point. We've now since then gone to 100% completion. We have identified qualified contractors. We have issued bids, and we are expecting those bids to come back at the end of August. We will open those bids up and present to you the bid tabs for the wastewater treatment plant project, phase 1, roughly in September or so. Now with this, we met with, of course, Garver Engineering, as well as our financial advisors and our bond legal counsel a few weeks ago. We had received word from our engineer, Garver Engineering, that we were likely to expect a price increase in this project. As you are all, again, the last item as we discussed here, well aware of, that prices throughout our economy, national down to local, have all gone up drastically. With this, we were expecting a $60 to $70 million price tag for the wastewater treatment plant project. We are now looking at approximately $80 to $90 million project for the wastewater treatment plant project. This is, again, phase 1 and 2 for this project here. A little, again, some history here. As you recall, last year we took out a bond for a phase 1 of the project. Given the size of the project here, due to arbitrage issues with IRS, as well as trying to ease in a rate increase for our ratepayers, we decided to split the project up into 2 phases, 1 and 2. Both phases are critical. You do not have a complete product without phase 2. Phase 1 will not suffice with that. So, but again, in order to help with arbitrage issues with IRS for the amount of bond we're taking out, the timing of the project itself, as well as in order to stair-step the increase for the ratepayers, we did a phase 1, phase 2 for the project here. We are now looking at having to take out a supplementary bond to support phase 1. We do not yet know the total to shed, and I like to caveat all this. This is still subject to the bids coming back. Again, the economy is showing that we're going to receive higher than $45 million for the project. We don't know. The estimates are around $7 million more for phase 1. I am still hopeful that the bids will come back better than that, but again, we won't know until then, but we wanted to prepare you for that possibility. If the bids do come back higher, that will require an additional bond to supplement phase 1 bond, and it will require an additional rate increase in order to meet those needs. Our current rate increases are doing very well for our previous plan. The $60 to $70 million range, the schedule we put together for the rate increases is doing very well for that. It's meeting those needs. But again, we're now looking at $80 to $90 million. So we will have to increase that rate a little bit each stair step along the way there. I wish I didn't have to tell you that, but as your city manager, it's my duty to tell you these things. With this, there's no action tonight. I just want to just kind of give you in writing as well as verbally answer any questions you have to kind of prepare you for that. This is obviously a very critical project. We have to keep moving forward. Our community is in desperate need of this plant being built. It's just unfortunately, due to the economy, we are looking at price increases across the board, including the plant. So with that, any questions you have about what I put in the material as well as what I've said here?
I have one question. Our current capacity is 7.5?
7.25.
Oh, okay, thanks. That's a little bit of difference.
Yes.
7.25. And that's going to be essentially the size of the capacity of the new one. But we don't use anywhere near that capacity right now.
We are currently around 4.5 roughly MGD a day, roughly right now. There's TCEQ buffer zones and the capacity, but we currently are licensed for a 7.25 right now as it is. Obviously, our plant cannot possibly begin to do that as it is right now. That's why we need to change to build a new facility here. But we will be licensed for the same 7.25 going forward. There's some capacity in that range there for future growth. We worked with TWDB, Texas Water Development Board, as well as other forecasts to see what our future growth would be. So under normal growth, we have plenty of years left in there for our normal residential and typical commercial growth in that.
Okay.
aren't we gaining some capacity too with the project for runoff water, that we've got some leak stuff, some, I don't remember if it was tanks or,
Yeah, we currently right now, and please, please, Doug, if you can too, we do, part of the project here is to replace the entire line from the ground, from the flow equalization basin to the plant. There is a lot of I&I infiltration going on, ionization in that line there, so that will free up some space there, but Doug, please go from there.
is that 500,000 gallons a day or 250,000 gallons a day or?
During heavy rainfall events, we have seen spikes of up to 1 million additional gallons.
So on average, we may capture another 200,000 to 250,000
That would be
as an average.
Yes, that'd be a fair assessment.
Cool. So we're gaining, we're going to go down from 4 1/4 we're using, or we're doing 4 1/2 right now. That's going to go down to really 4 1/4 when we get everything built new.
Once that new force main is laid, yes, it will tighten that portion of our collection system up, and we should see a drop in those flows. Yes.
We're gaining a little bit of capacity, and then we have the ability to actually do 7 1/4 once we get built.
Well, again, under TCQ, there is, we can only go up to,
90% of that.
is it 75%, 90%, what is that?
TCQ 7590 rule states that once you reach 75% of your treatment capacity, you have to begin engineering design of a plant expansion. Once a facility reaches 90% of their permitted capacity, they actually have to be in active construction for an expansion.
Gotcha.
So it's
Very-
unfortunate news, but we wanted to share that with you so that in a month from now, when we do open bids and bring them back to you, you have had this presentation to chance to kind of prepare for that. So
Well, thank you. No surprises. We know construction costs are going up everywhere.
And I would like to, I put it in the writing here, but I do want to say that staff and Garva have done an outstanding job of trying to make this as lean as possible. They have struck and struck and struck and struck to the point where you strike much more, you're not going to have a plant any longer. So you have to have so much to have a plant there. So we are making it as lean as we possibly can, and we will have Garva be looking over every bid carefully to make sure there's nothing in there that's incorrect there. So.
Thank you, Lance. Appreciate you being here. Doug? All right. This was just information only, so no action to be taken. Item number 30, discuss and take any necessary action regarding the nonprofit organization policy in preparation for receiving and reviewing applications at a future meeting.
Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, this is the second year that we are engaging in the nonprofit funding assistance program. We have received a total of 10 applicants, 8 of which came in the designated time period between April 1st and May 31st. 2 of them came in afterwards. All 10 of the packets will be presented to you. You should have been emailed a Dropbox link. Our next step now is to ask for some direction from you as to how you would like that presentation. If you would like it from staff, or if you would like it from much like it was last year, where these groups came in and made a presentation to you in a special called meeting. That's what we're here to discuss tonight. So that is your call. Our recommendation would be that a special meeting is called, and then these individuals are allowed, or these groups are allowed to come in, make a presentation. There's give and take and discussion back and forth, much like last year.
Thank you. Staff's asking for directions. So let's first decide whether or not the council wants to receive presentations from these nonprofits or not.
Time limited, but yes, like we did last.
Time-
I'm limited. but I'll do that.
Last year, I think they were 5 minutes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I enjoyed those presentations. I think we've decided that's what we'd like to do.
Okay.
All right. Is there a motion? Oh, I'm s-
Are we going to decide
yeah.
on all the other two?
No, we'll vote on each one.
Okay.
A motion to hear presentations.
I make a motion to hear presentations limited to 5 minutes per presentation at the designated council meeting for the review.
Thank you, Mr. Pilgrim. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Next, we need to decide if the council wants to call a special meeting for the purpose of addressing these nonprofits or add it to a future agenda. Discussion? Thoughts?
I think it's separate.
Yeah, I think we did it
Separate meeting, because that
last
means you
year.
would add it on a meeting like today, and we'd be here all night.
Yeah.
So
Be
I
here till
think,
dark.
So have a separate
it's a
meeting.
separate meeting.
Make a motion that we have a separate meeting,
All right, and you want
special
to,
meeting.
let's see first, do we want staff to decide on that meeting and send us proposed
Yes.
dates? Okay,
We will coordinate with y'all.
okay, thank you. All right, a motion?
Yes.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. That motion carries 6-0. Now, oh,
Got one more.
one more. City council must also decide whether or not to include the 2 applicants that missed the deadline. Discussion?
Yes,
Who are their 2 applicants?
yeah.
They are Salvation Army and City Square.
When did they come in?
After the deadline, I don't have that
You
date
don't
in
have
front of
exact-
me.
Do you know, Grayson, was it before July 1st? Yeah, it was. Yeah, so the thing is, and I have the email here, there was some confusion there. The email that I had says, please submit the required information by July 1st, 2022, and it came from city staff. So people got confused and thought July 1st was the deadline, and it also said 90 days prior to September the 30th, which would be July 1st. So people got confused, these 2 organizations, and I think there were maybe a couple of more that did not even submit because later they found out that they had missed the deadline, but there was confusion. They thought they had more time. And the 2 that didn't even submit because of the mix-up are, I think we'll all agree that they're pretty important in this community. So really, to me, well, I'm not even gonna bring that up, but these 2 should be included because of the mix-up. And I saw the email myself, so I realized.
The information for these two entities are on in the Dropbox because the policy
Yes,
states
it's in the
that-
Dropbox,
Yes, sir.
but we're
They are
deciding
included. Yes,
if we're gonna include them.
Yes,
So because of the mix-up, I think they should be included.
Well, what about the other 2? If you're going to include
Well,
Salvation Army and
Well,
City Square?
you can't assume that they want to be included because they didn't submit an application at all.
I would be inclined to agree with Councilmember Savage to include them because of the misunderstanding in the email announcing this.
I would agree. Did you say it was Salvation Army and City Square?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. I couldn't open Dropbox because it required a password that I don't remember. Can that be sent in
Yes.
other form or
Yes.
preferably paper and ink? But I appreciate it. All right. I'll hear a motion.
Make the motion that we include, I guess, should I say their names?
I just
Sure.
say that-
Okay, City Square and Salvation Army in the nonprofit consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Savage. Second? Second, Mr. Pilgrim. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. We moved to item 31. Item 32, consider and approve future events for city council and/or city staff pursuant to resolution number 2004-081. Does anyone have anything? All right. Item 33, motion for adjournment and a second.
So move.
All those in favor say
Second.
aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.